front-runner's the story of a political train wreck as it charts the career of Senator Gary Hart, Hugh Jackman. Firstly, as he enters the 1984 primaries, which he lost to Walter Mondale, who subsequently lost the election to Ronald Reagan. But in 1988, Hart re-entered the race to win the Democratic nomination for president. His stance was all on policy. He wasn't interested in show pony tactics. His campaign was based on the 4 E's: the economy, the environment, education, and ethics. And it was this last that led to his downfall. A reporter on the Miami Herald got a phone call from an unknown woman who stated that her friend was having an affair with Hart. The Miami Herald covertly followed the woman to Hart's townhouse in Washington and subsequently reported his seeming liaison with her, causing much grief for Hart's wife Lee, Vera Farmiga, and daughter Caitlin Dever. There was a media frenzy, with Hart refusing at first to engage with the rumours, leaving his campaign manager Bill Dixon, J.K. Simmons, frustrated and doom-laden. It seems that what JFK and Lyndon Johnson got away with so easily in the 1970s was now in the 80s the stuff of the tabloid press, and also respectable newspapers like the Washington Post, under editor Ben Bradley, Alfred Molina. And in subsequent decades, these trifling matters don't seem to affect very much at all. The film was directed by Jason Reitman, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jay Carson and Matt Bai, on whose book All the Truth Is Out the film is based. And to begin with, it's a chaotic affair, impressionistic, with handheld camera, quick cuts and overlapping dialogue before it settles down to the heart of the matter. And the heart is the public's right to know about the private lives of politicians, just as they devour Hollywood gossip, versus the very real question that is expressed by one of the woman reporters on the Washington Post about the responsibility a man in power with opportunity has to those around him. Hugh Jackman is terrific as Gary Hart, a decent man in many ways and a fine potential candidate, but with a fatal flaw. It's a pity that the film lost the opportunity to portray Hart's demise as an American tragedy. There's not enough fleshing out of the central character, although that point is made in Bai's book. Potentially there would have been no war in Iraq and there would have been major reforms for the environment. The other outstanding performance is by J.K. Simmons as Dixon, but all the many characters are well drawn and excellently played. It's a good story, well told, but it could have been an aspirational tale instead of what it is, the story, as I said, of a train wreck.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of ideas in this film, but it is a bit of a train wreck as a film as well. It's a bit overwhelmed by technique, I think. The attempt to do this Robert Altman approach to it, where everything is almost completely overlapped. The dialogue's overlapped, as you suggest. The shots are overlapped, but it continues through the big scenes. And I think the Jackman character kind of disappears. He's usually such a sort of persuasive actor with so much charisma, but there's not much on site here, I felt. He just kind of disappears in the apparatus of the filmmaking in some ways, which is a pity because, as you suggest, there are a lot of really interesting ideas. And when you particularly put it into a contemporary context in the Trump world, you just see how sort of inconsequential the whole thing really was.
It was just one indiscretion that potentially changed the history of the world, really.
Well, that's absolutely true. Things could have been so much different if he'd... and what a great candidate he was. I mean, I'd forgotten how interesting he was as a man and how sort of progressive his ideas were and how well-formed and instructive they were on so many levels.
And, not wanting to, lower himself to do all those show pony tactics.
He works pretty well on it, but he just disappears in the panoply of sort of cinematic ideas that are being employed.
It is about that moment when the tabloid press felt free to publish this sort of thing.
Yes.
Of course, there used to be D notices. Remember D notices where, people, you don't go there with the private lives.
I think I was the subject of a few of them looking back in time, Margaret. But it certainly just explodes from there on, doesn't it? The next 30 years, it's just open slather.
And it
continues.
I thought the point that woman made was a valid one, very much in context of the Me Too movement, of this guy in a position of power with the opportunity. He should have resisted it.
Yes.
And, you know, particularly in the position that he was in. Anyway, I think it's really interesting. It brings up a lot of issues.
Many ideas in this film, and there's a lot of resonance that really is well.
I'm going to give it 4 stars.
I'll give it 4 as well.
We need to say something.
It's nobody's business. None of it is.
Okay, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about how you get through today.
This campaign is about the future, not rumors, not sleaze, and I care about the sanctity of this process, whether you do or do not.